good, but we want to go ahead and get started so we can make sure everything is covered. Thanks again for coming out today. The sign-in sheet has came around. If you didn't sign it, could you make sure to sign in, please? Okay, so let's talk about last week, what went on last week with our commands. You remember we talked about giving our kids direct commands and not so many commands. So how do we do with that? During 30 minutes, did anybody get a chance to time how many commands they gave out during the 30 minutes? Anybody get a chance to do that?
I did. I failed at one of the commands with one of my children. And I literally went back and reread the book and read the information, and it kind of helped me get through what I need to get through.
That's good you went back and revisit it, because sometimes I have to do that. And again, when we give these commands, a lot of times we're not really paying attention that they are commands and we're demanding that we get an action out of our child, and when we're giving them so many and not thinking about just throwing them out, it can cause them to get frustrated. So again, if we didn't get a chance, just pay attention to it. Even if you don't get to log in on that sheet that we received for homework last week, just pay attention to those commands. Sure, you said you got a chance to do it too?
I got a chance to do it, but I think it failed too. But at least you got the understanding what the command was supposed to take place. And my command was pay gas.
Okay, and I know we
And she failed, but you got to realize that, to get the work, you got to pay. And then also, one other thing, she did listen to one of the commands, she did do her work. And I was proud of it.
Well, that's good. And I always say one thing, it's a work in progress. We just keep working in it and you keep doing this plan. Pay attention not to give her 50 at one time or anything. But she'll catch up.
And then I gave her a little sticker for the do.
That's good. So she brought the rewards back also. We all know that giving rewards kind of makes your child want to do better. So that was good. It's something as simple as a sticker. Anybody else got any comments about last week and the commands?
Well, my son called me, told me he got tired too out. He's tired of I said, congratulations.
That's good. That's right. Make sure to prize them.
I left my homework to come take. I know they want to take from this.
Okay, and that's fine. And a lot of that homework is for your purposes. We just want to make sure you have it and everything. But just when you get a chance, just practice the commands with the kids and see how they react to it also. Because we know we lighten off on the commands, but how are the kids responding now that we're not giving them 5, 6, 7 commands at one time? They're probably feeling a little relief for themselves also.
I do want to say that it helped with my son being here last week, because he realized what one of his issues was with me giving him the commands, that I was giving him too many. So he was like, oh, that was it. And I asked him later on, I said, what was it that caught your eye? And then he told me, so I have to make sure I watch that. But it was good that he felt open enough to tell me.
And we definitely want that open communication. One of the principles that I want to talk about, and I want to make sure that I even actually read it from the manual, is the attention principle. And we say it a lot of times, and we say it in different ways, but I just want to make sure that we get it, the verbatim of this one. The attention principle, that children will continue to exhibit behaviors if they get attention. This means that in order to reduce inappropriate behaviors, one of the most effective strategies is to give a misbehavior very little attention, or to systematically plan to ignore them. In this program, that's what we're going to discuss today. And this one is a big one because a lot of parents have a hard time and they struggle with ignoring. But we do know the more attention that you give a behavior, the more the child is going to do it because you're giving them that attention. Whether it's a good or a bad thing, they're going to do it more. So we'll be talking about that today, about ignoring some. Before we get into ignoring, there's one more thing I want to talk about too. And it's called the ways for you to stay calm. Because again, a lot of times your kid is going to get upset and they're testing you, get you to find out what your limit is before you're going to break and give them their way. So during all this fussing and hollering and crying, you're going to become frustrated. You're going to have to find a way to calm yourself down. So a couple of techniques we have, everybody remember to count to 10. Take deep breaths and count to 10. It works for some it don't. So that's why we have a few other options. We also have self-talk. Talk to yourself. you can calm down, it's gonna be okay, don't.
Excuse me, when you say talk to yourself, that means I can sit and hold a whole conversation with myself.
Just don't answer yourself. Don't do
But if I'm
yourself.
talking, I gotta answer myself, because who I'm talking to.
But it's not a conversation, it's just a quote. I calm down. I actually did this before, just calm down, it's okay.
Yeah, it's good to do self-regulation.
Yeah, and that's
Talk
it.
out loud and
Yeah, I was
regulate
talking to
yourself.
myself the other day, I got to make rules and regulation, and sometimes,
Oh, go get
some people like to follow rules and some don't, but rules got to go. And I'm just in the living room, just having a good conversation, and then all of a sudden my daughter came out the room, who are you talking to? I said, if I talk to myself, and myself will answer myself, then you know what you need to be done, then I'm gonna have to sit here and talk to myself, and she's like, oh.
Well, you gotta do it this way, is if you ever get upset with one of the kids or whatever, instead of having that conversation with yourself, maybe just do some self-talk to kind of calm yourself down. It's okay, Sherry, I'm not gonna go there, don't go there, Sherry.
I always say that to myself, or walk away, or
Yeah.
go walk around the block to let them know they ain't got
And
to.
walking and reading and listening to music are also ways to calm yourself down. And we wanna know what works for us because, again, our child is gonna test us.
Oh, yes.
Because they're trying to figure out just how far they can get. So while we going through that stage of them testing us, we wanna make sure that we're prepared, so when we get frustrated, we can deal with it and it doesn't affect the child. Okay, let's do that first. Tom, could you please come work the thing? You remember I don't know how to do it? Thank you. So while Tom gets the vignette started, we're gonna go ahead, we'll just wait a second again, we're gonna be talking about ignoring.
Most children test their parents' rules and commands from time to time.
I know you'd like to go, but you can't.
I hate you. You never let me do anything.
This is especially true if parents have been inconsistent in the past and have not enforced their rules.
Where you been, Pedro?
Be prepared for this testing, for only by breaking a rule can children come to believe it is really a rule.
I'm a little upset because I called you, you didn't answer.
Research shows that normal children fail to comply to their parents' requests about 1/3 of the time. School-age children are good at arguing and protesting. This is a healthy expression of their independence. They are testing the rules to see if you're going to be consistent. If you aren't, then they will probably protest harder next time. Try to think about your children's protests as learning experiences, ways of exploring the limits of their environment and learning what behaviors are appropriate or inappropriate.
None of my other friends have to, so why should I?
In Part 3 of Program 10, we will focus on the importance of not giving attention to children's protests, which inevitably follow parental limit setting.
So, let's see.
The rationale for ignoring is straightforward. Children's behavior is maintained by the attention it receives.
Would you like to do some walking?
Even negative attention, such as nagging or yelling, can be rewarding the children's misbehavior. By ignoring the child's misbehavior, there is no payoff for the child to continue to argue or misbehave, and so the child will eventually stop.
Here's a book like we have. I'm not gonna eat my feet.
On the other hand, if the child gets approval and attention for appropriate behaviors, he will learn it is more beneficial to behave appropriately than inappropriately. Now, let's look at an example of a father effectively ignoring his son's protests and then giving positive attention when the boy behaves appropriately.
Dad, can I go over to Jimmy's house?
Not now, Luke. It's almost time for dinner.
But I'm not hungry. Why can't I go to Jimmy? Please? Please? Please?
You want to help me decide what to have for dinner?
Yeah.
How about sweet pancakes?
to talk about today, because I heard the gasp, he's warning him right after, but the thing is, we're kind of redirecting him. From the moment he stopped whining and grabbing on his arm, it was kind of like, at that point, we're going to redirect him. It's almost not, it's not a reward, but we are redirecting him. He's doing what he has, and we wanted him to stop, fussing and whining and grabbing on me. So, as parents, we don't want to hold grudges and, you was pulling on me 5 minutes ago whining, so don't talk to me for 10 more minutes. That's not how we want to do it. We want to respond and react immediately after they corrected their behavior. And that child corrected his behavior. He noticed that he wasn't going to get any attention from his father, so he stopped the whining, he stopped the pulling on his arm, and he just turned to walk away. So I knew we were going to have some kind of responses to that. How effective do you think that technique was that the father did?
I think it was good.
So do you think that's something you would do?
It's like showing the middle wing, I ain't gonna, do you acting like that.
He only said to him twice, you're gonna eat, the other thing he came back and said,
Well, I'd rather talk to them. To me, a child will get a better understanding if you repeat something 5 times to 2 times, but when they angry or acting out, look like you can communicate because you having that eye-to-eye contact, and like if they disagree, they're not gonna look you straight in the face. So I like to hear when the conversation at our house, because I'm getting somewhere, but we looking at each other.
And it's times when you have those conversations,
Right.
but when your child goes to misbehave, what they're saying is if he's misbehaving, you kind of like, okay, what's wrong? Let's do this or do that. You're giving him the attention he wants. So next time he wants that attention, he's gonna do the same behavior because you're.
Well, as long as he don't do it in public.
If
If
you
you
don't
don't
do it,
do it in public, then we will sit down and understand why is you doing that.
so you don't go anywhere.
And that's it. And that's just things that, some things that you handle in your home differently than other people handle in their home. But my rationale is to keep it consistent all the way across the board.
Right, and whatever you teach him at home, he should know how to perform in public. But if you let him act and do temptation at home, go at your head, say bad words to you, they gonna do it when they get out. Okay, she got a question.
Oh, no, I'm gonna say, it's not fair, like, if you tell somebody something right, I know the person benefit out. I'm gonna tell you, you go with my off the table, I ain't gonna do that, cause maybe in years, or something you can't hear you. I'm gonna tell you twice. I'm gonna hold you 2 times. The first time you probably hear it. Second time, I know you should heard it.
Well, what if they have a hearing problem?
That's
What
what,
if it's an accident?
that's what they said.
So,
Well, remember though,
That's what they said. Cause I know
So
the
by the
time.
time- they should hear you.
right, but that's kind of a little bit different from ignoring, because normally if we're ignoring behavior, it's misbehavior.
Yeah.
It's the child acting out, not us giving commands, which was last week, which would have played perfectly, because last week with the commands, you gave him a command and you waited to give him a chance to do it, and when he didn't respond, you restated your command again. That's command from last week, which definitely walks us right into what we're working on today. So, Chris.
Okay,
I'm
now,
sorry.
them going back to another question. When you don't teach them at home when they get out in public. Okay, this is at one time, me and my sister, we was visiting her friend. Her daughter got to climb. She got to throw on all kind of objects in the house. So what would you do about something like that? Now, this happened at home. This wasn't in public, but we was visitors. And we came there, we stayed there. We wasn't there too long. So she started throwing things.
Well, but it was the mother was the one that should have been doing the discipline or the ignoring at that point. And that's hard, because sometimes when you visit somebody and you're in the care of somebody else's kids, and they don't respond, or they don't deal with a discipline issue with their kids, you kind of want to step up and deal with it yourself. But you were appropriate not to.
Yeah, we was in the house. Yeah, we was in the house, and all kind of strange things this little girl started doing.
Yeah, but
She probably at the time she was about 11.
But at 11, we do ignore the behaviors like that at 11, as long as it's not harming anyone or going to harm, do some damage to things in the household. We could ignore things like that. Some of the things that we ignore, a lot of us won't agree with. But research do show that ignoring these behaviors makes they cease a lot easier when we ignore them. They're going to stop. the kids are gonna see we get no response, no reaction out of you for this behavior, so they're not gonna do it. Why do it? You're not paying attention to it.
And I think too, though, she said, I told that, when the kid, it's so funny, kids smart these days. They really smart. So it's like, when you go in public, it's like, okay, when you're at home, they may act good, this, and that, or they might be right. But when they get in public, it's like, I'm home, y'all can run with this. I'm gonna jump around the table, do all this, you like, you gonna do that right now? And it's, I don't know, something to me, kids change this.
They are very intelligent, but
Yeah.
again, and I
They
can't
don't do
stress
nothing in
enough.
public.
But that's why you
know
say
what?
consistent.
But you know
Stay
what?
consistent, whether you at home, whether they be visiting someone, whether you in a grocery store. If we say consistent, they know what to expect.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised, they feel safer and they feel more secure knowing that you're consistent.
And you know, sometimes kids like to pull stuff when you're in public just to get people to say, oh, I don't think that's a good mother, or she did that to her child. I can't believe that. Kids will do that. I know my grandbaby would do that. She would do that. Like I would say, well, don't touch that, I'm not buying it. Or somebody walk up, oh, she just a little darling. You buy that for her. I'm like, oh, no. Kids will know the setting and the time.
Do stuff.
Do stuff.
Yeah.
When they, especially when they think any little stuff happen,
If
I'm
you don't
gonna
have
get
it,
you
you not
back.
get back.
They were
Yeah.
old or young, but I just said,
That
Yeah.
goes back to our recap of our limit setting and our boundaries.
Yeah.
And then when we set those boundaries, you have to know the kids are gonna test that boundaries to make sure that you're
well, what if you
consistent.
got a kid don't follow boundary and they don't believe in setting a limit or whatever they think? When they grow, they don't have that. But you keep saying it's limited and they be like, spell it. So we just have to.
But you know, we just keep being
Keep saying
consistent
in
eventually.
a individual night.
And you just get repetition,
Because
gotta be doing it.
when I
for
be
a
saying in
routine.
my inner voice,
Over
they're
and
saying,
over.
no, you're a hypocrite. Don't do that. You know, they know something going wrong when I'm talking that,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do this today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Mom.
And thank you, Sherry, we totally understand. Let's kind of get back to the distraction portion of this stuff. One more question, because this one I wanted to get out because again, we kind of discussed it a little bit. Right after the child stopped grabbing onto the father's arm, the father proceeded to redirect him and ask him if he wanted to have a dinner or something. How do you feel about the redirecting and or the distractions of the behaviors? Do you think it was okay immediately afterwards that maybe he decided to let him come over and help out?
Cause he's giving him, he's seeking attention, so he's giving him positive attention.
Yeah.
When he's not getting riled up.
Yeah.
But I don't think the father should let it get put on in the first place. I think the father should have just stopped doing what he had to do and say, hey, now my son is trying to communicate. Just don't keep ignoring his child.
We gotta get him though.
He
Put it
can-
on.
So by him being a parent, he should know what to.
But again, the behavior that he did not want to see, it's a difference from that child talking to his father and
Oh,
explaining,
yeah.
than him whining and grabbing on the arm.
But
You
you
know,
got some
behavior
kids,
you
you got
try
some kids got that behavior. It ain't coming out of it.
and that's what we work on. We work, that's the process of being consistent. We work on changing those behaviors, so we're not gonna give them any
Well, what if you
attention
get too old and die and you working on something? You
Okay,
have
I can't say
energy.
like I come over and tell you, can I go to the store? Can I go to the store? Instead of saying, can I go to the store, please?
Okay.
Understand?
Kevin, what did you think about that?
What did the father acted?
Yes.
I act probably at least 60% the same.
Okay,
I believe that's the right way to go.
right.
Okay, let's hit the next vignette. Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
You're right.
I don't have I ignore, but I don't read them.
Watch how this mother handles her daughter's whining as she protests.
Come on, Nicole, let's go to the grocery store. Mom, can I have some candy? No, not today. Why can't I have, please? Why can't I have some candy?
In the next vignette, watch how the parents ignore their daughter's
So what do you think about that? Was that something worth ignoring? I see you point. Most of our kids, last week we talked about that all children will misbehave. You know, they're gonna test their limits, it's just something, every single one of them are gonna do that. But that we take it to the whining now, and a lot of us, we went to the stage when our children are whining. So, do you think it was appropriate for that mother to ignore the child's whining like she did?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Well, sometimes when I ignore my children whining, it look like it get worse. And then we get to a complete decision of some on grieving, because sometimes that whining give you a headache.
And that's again, we go do our self-talk to calm ourselves down,
Okay, I'm gonna be
because we don't want them to win that situation in that way. So,
But it is also evidence-based that, and in critical years talk about that, it will get worse before it gets better, because you're showing them they're not getting the attention. So your limit setting and your boundaries.
what do you think would have happened if she would have argued with the little girl about the candy? Where now she just ignored her and, you know, she
The
went
little girl probably would have ran back in the street.
No, what she should have done was talk to the little girl about the thing.
She said no.
She said no, so she's trying to separate.
No means no.
Yeah, no,
And that's what-
That should have been it.
That's what I want you guys to
But
understand.
But sometimes it don't be like that. You got to talk to them.
And that's true, but what I want you to understand, when you decide to talk to them when they're whining or they throwing a tantrum, you're giving them attention, so you're giving them exactly what they want. We don't want to do that.
Calm down.
Right. Immediately after that child stops having that temper tantrum, or immediately after they give you the behavior that you want, that's when you go to talking to them. But we gotta remember, and it's so hard for us, because as the parent and the authoritarian, you know, we're in charge, we have that, we think that way. But so we immediately say, you're gonna do what I say do it, you're gonna do it how I say do it, and actually, and we ignore that simple behavior, it'll cease. And it took a minute. Again, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and she definitely will test your lips. And recently I've been ignoring her. She said, "Why you ain't answering me, Mary? Why you ain't answering?" You know, but when you decide to talk to me like you have some sense, or when you stop all that whining, you know, then I definitely, and immediately afterwards, I address it. Because it's been times where it can go on and on, but, you know, immediately afterwards, okay, Mariah, now you ready to talk? You know, so I let her know you're getting behavior because you stop crying and you're acting like you have some sense.
And another thing too, you got two type of kids. If you talk back to them, some will say, okay, I understand. But you got that kid will keep on going and going. Why?
They last word.
Why? They got to get the last word. So it's all about the kid too. You argue with them, but they gonna keep on going. Why?
That's when they're ignoring her.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. And again,
And then when that kid think that you ignoring them and they thinking they wouldn't say, okay, then I be the kid, you be the parent. Now you play that role.
if you could just be at my house, on my wall, how they say, a fly on my wall, and listen, why, Mary, why? And I ignore it. If nothing else, I've learned so much from Incredible Years, and I ignored it, and what did she do? Stop. Okay, Mary. You know, she ready to talk now. You know, so we definitely want to make sure to do that. And I know it's hard.
Like yesterday, when you was celebrating the friend house, and her grandmother was crying and crying. And they blocked the van into her, and I told her, no, just let her sit there until she stopped crying. And she just whined and whined, but nobody knew. Oh, he's looking at me. Okay, we're looking at him, but we're looking at you. Now, she just bust out crying for just 20 minutes. Oh, just in no rush, she just stopped crying. So eventually, we all walked outside, and she just sat there and whined.
Yeah, we did it with them. Obviously, you know, we talk about the temper tantrum and everything. It's just we gotta be cautious of it when it happens, because our immediate response as a parent when a child is doing something that
She
we don't
changed
agree
from my
with.
mama walk to the door.
Yeah,
That's right, too,
we
yeah.
had that too.
My mama walk to the door.
We had that going on too. Okay. How about we do a role play? We're gonna practice ignoring, since we have
I know you.
a few parents that's saying they don't know so much about this ignoring thing. The best way we can do is practice it. Do I have a couple volunteers? It's pretty simple. All we gonna do is just, somebody's gonna do it.
Mother and daughter is a good example.
Yeah, mama and the daughter.
I'll be the daughter.
That may be a good one if you need a daughter.
I'll be the daughter.
Yes. We can practice misbehaviors like whining, arguing, pouting, screaming.
I do it with somebody.
All right, we got Kamisha.
Come on, I'll be the daughter.
Okay.
We do it a couple times, so you kind of
What
get
y'all saying like y'all had me standing up there?
Well, let's do it, Joe. Karen, what you gonna do?
I had to
Say hi to Karen, smile.
you know what I'm saying?
I'll meet the child.
Okay, well, what's your behavior? You arguing about something?
Clean that.
Okay.
She want one. Well, we can't go. Why I can't go to the mall with my friend?
Okay.
So, clean up with 2 kids.
Okay, you rolling.
Okay, Mom, do it.
Oh, I got this on camera.
What's going on?
Hey, Mom.
Hey.
Mom, can I go to the mall with my friend Sherry?
Sherry who?
Sherry Patillo.
Do I know?
We go to school together, go around sometime.
her?
Yeah, you there, you speak to her.
She never before?
No. No, well, she been over here when you've been at work.
Oh, already work.
But
She's a good girl up there.
I think she good. I like her.
Did you clean up?
Yep.
Well. What did I say? Why just don't feel comfortable because I ain't never.
See, every time it come down to me.
I know, but you can't go because, well, I said I don't know parents, I don't know nothing.
But Mom, I know her. I know her.
I don't know her.
There you go. Mom, you ain't gonna know everybody.
I got to know everybody.
Oh, Mama, please.
No, I'm
See, every time it come down to me. Oh. Oh yeah.
Keep pressing.
All right, Sherry. Come here. My word is Sherry right there.
Thank you, Commissioner Towers.
You are.
And that's a typical teen, you know, once we get 13, 14, 15, and we start to want to do a little more things with our own friends and be a little more independent. Your parent wants to know where you are at, and they're gonna ask questions like that. And it didn't get as serious as it could have got. Cause you know, it could have went, you know how to, so.
Oh yeah, you would have had the real action.
So I still go and I said, she gonna say clean up her house again. She clean up her oh man, I'm gonna use that one. But you didn't clean up.
Okay, can I get 2 more people? 2 more people want to
Yeah, 2 more people, y'all. Come on, y'all. I did.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Okay, see, there we go.
I'm the child. I'm the daughter, you child. I'm the child.
Stop it.
Okay, let's see. She gonna be the kid. And then I
You gonna be the mama.
mama.
I'm gonna be the mom. Oh, okay, you gonna be the mom.
So you gonna be doing the wine.
So what is our topic? It's about, about that you got a friend, she's your age, and they want to be convention, and 35, really don't know how to experience enough to drive, how to just learn how to drive, and they want to go to Grand Rapids.
Chris, how about, we gonna make this simple. How about we do it when you were young, she go for wine, because we had an example with the old. How about we do it when she a little more younger and you wanna cook some cake, you wanna cook a cake, and so, and she's, and that's your mom.
How about me getting a kid to do it?
Okay, so your kid wanna have a cake.
Hey, Mom, what you doing today?
Oh, I'm just gonna do some laundry.
Can I make a cake today?
No, not today.
Why not? I want to make a cake. We ain't never used to make no cake.
Today is the laundry.
Come on, please.
This is not
Mom, I want to make a cake.
not the day that
I want a cake.
this is the day I do
No,
laundry.
I'm gonna intervene, we go in order.
You go ahead.
I'm gonna intervene, let her have her tantrum.
I want to make a cake.
Turn around, just turn around. Chris is the other way. The other way. Yeah, do the other way.
We don't never make a cake. Come on, Mom. Please. Mama. Mom. Mom. You ignore me. I hate you.
Now you go, it's fine, you can redirect her and talk to her at this point, she stopped that behavior. So at that point, you could have talked to her, Katrina, we can't do the cake today, but how about
This is okay.
cake
This is
tomorrow?
it's coming back in tomorrow.
You sure we're going to do it tomorrow?
You gonna do it, Kevin?
Cause you use your wine. I know you gonna
after all that wine and shit.
Yeah, she'll be nothing.
I'm like,
You don't need no cake.
I was just in over her for quite a while. Just the next week, I said, hey, you want to make
Yeah. But you know, and as parents, and I think I talked about this before, we have to be the bigger person in the situation. And I think we talked about being at a standoff point with your kid because you won't break and they won't break. As an adult, we have to be the bigger person. And I think I mentioned that with me and my 26-year-old son, we both were at standoff. And we finally at a point where I just, you know, after reading a lot of this stuff and the critical is, I need to be the bigger person. I am the parent. You know, after all, so I need to be the bigger person.
for the next day, I would.
Yeah.
So we'll try it out and see how it happened, okay? And then you can report it back to us next week.
I didn't read about it.
Like they won, huh?
Yeah, like they won, they said, we gonna do tomorrow, see how wine is, it helped. Got my way.
Yeah, I'm wine again.
Okay, we're gonna go back to the videos. Thanks for the role plays, you guys. Those were real cool.
You're welcome.
We'll get some more in, don't worry.
I'm sweet.
She got to role play somebody say speaking and I steady talking and they don't hear me.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good
So
too.
my partner is not here
What
today,
makes
so.
the ignore strategy effective?
Daddy, Mom, I'm broken up. Mommy, Daddy, Mommy, Daddy.
So that-
Broken up, Mommy, broken up, Daddy. Daddy, Mommy, Daddy, Mommy.
That, I'm gonna do that one.
But don't be crazy.
That, I'm gonna do that one.
Engaging in arguments with children
Trina, are we
reinforces
knocking your baby on the TV? As we, if you guys don't notice, because you probably be watching up here, when the stuff be going on, she be in the back pointing at her door.
But you know her daughter ignoring that, and everything her mama say, you know, she don't do, she ignoring it, and that's good.
He always.
I'm talking about the daughter. When you're up there doing like that, she don't.
That one is trying me.
She doing a good job today.
Boy, I tell you, really not, really.
But see, again, just ignore it. We learned it now that just ignore the behavior and stop. And again, I've been practicing this, and you know how they say practice what you preach, and I walk the walk. I have truly walked the walk with this, because that whining, it will sit me over the edge. And what I found myself to ignore for them few minutes, it don't last long. When she realized she ain't getting no attention, she stops. I can honestly say it truly works. What do you think? Do you think that was effective? I know it kind of moved on. Do you think it was effective with the little girl at the table and the mother ignoring her at the table during that time?
I think the mother should have stopped her. I would say, please, we at the dinner table
I
right
don't think
now.
that was effective because she kept on doing it.
Yeah, we trying to eat, you doing all
We
that.
tried even, she's disturbing everybody around the table, and she's having her way, she's doing what she wanted to do. I think the mother should have intervened this.
Hey, listen, what?
And we only seen a tad bit of it, so we don't know how long it went up. What do you think is the appropriate time? I mean, the first time she do it, okay, so she, get up, is that how quick it should happen? Or should you say stop it and give her a second to stop it? Or
Give her
Second chance, she is.
Tell her, okay, you gotta be quiet, do it, sit around the table, everybody, you really trying to eat. So you can't
You
just
don't
sit
want
there, because you know what, you just sit there until we all get down. All this indulgence has got to go. So if she keeps on doing it, hey, something's gonna happen.
First of all,
that's what we get. And I knew this was gonna be one of the hardest topics. This and rewards. I know those are usually the hardest topics because parents feel that every misbehavior needs to be addressed immediately. So I knew this was gonna be one of the hardest. Some of the things that you'll see, because also swearing. If they say, you know, it's okay to ignore that. Yes, Sherry, I'm sorry.
she ignored me. I had questions.
I was all up in the motions.
What I'm saying is, when that little kid was performing, you should set your limit, and you should have at dinner table, you should know your manners. And you shouldn't have to holler when you're talking about food. You're supposed to eat, not talking to. So therefore, the little girl should have been excused.
And and Sherry's talking about she done.
Well, she said she was done. So why would she want to interrupt my food? Because like me, when my kids go to doing something, it just turned my appetite, and I'm like, I can't eat.
Okay, on their household, what she was trying to do, have a family dinner.
And that's the rules that we're gonna sit here and have.
Well, okay, if she was having a family get together, she showing a poor example, but she can't even, control a 5 or 6 year old.
But again, what did we talk about? All children are gonna misbehave,
Right.
they're gonna test out.
But that's why they should set her to her table, and the grown folks should sit at their table, and they wanna continue ignoring the kid. What if she would've sit in the house and watched it?
She
That's
was
what,
sitting there. Let's see what Trina has to say. Yes, Trina.
I'm sorry, this is me, I'm a fat person. You doing this at the table, you ain't gonna disrupt me and my food. I'm ignoring you and I'm gonna eat my food. And when I get done, and you get done, we're gonna have to talk. Me eat my food. I'm gonna eat the food. Okay.
Well, whether it's because of the point now where you're ignoring her, and I agree, and again, it took a minute for me to get to that point. That's why when you just telling me what you feel, that you don't agree with that, that's fine, because we all have our opinions, but what I do ask is that you try it. You know what I mean? That's what I ask is that you try it, because I've seen it work. I'm a living witness to this. And I always tell you, and people, I tell you, my granddaughter is a handful, and I always say, oh, people shouldn't have kids because I'm way too old to be chasing her around. So we need to learn how to do some of this stuff where it don't, involve all of those things. Yes, Chris?
What about the table then? Do you think they should, adults should have their own table, the family should eat the same table?
I think they should eat together.
Well, that's your family rules. No, we don't get into the family rules because what I feel happens in my house, because we eat in front of the TV.
Right.
So
okay.
everybody is different.
Right.
With some people, it's like at 5 o'clock we'll have dinner. It's not a maybe. So this is happening every day. So it totally depends on your household.
Okay, how you like to
sit
set
your
up.
dinner.
well, why do it have to be old people? I think young people shouldn't have kids.
Yeah, I just crack jokes because I believe my granddaughter whipped me out. I said, just being consistent. I tell you, being a parent is a lot of work. You have to get up and take parent from the couch. So when your kid needs you to do something, you need to get up to discipline them. It's just a lot. And at this late age in my life, it's a lot for me. So I always crack that joke, old people ain't going to have kids. It's nothing like
I know because I'm working on twins.
Okay, anyways, Kamisha.
When you said about eat from the table, and I went to the story, the same way too, because when me and my kids probably was together, like, I had some at the table, I'd be in the room, he'd be in the room, but it'd be somewhere else. So this before we had split up, way before then. I said, we all gonna sit at the table. So ever since then, I don't let my kids see me eat in my room.
Yes.
So what I do is, I bring them on the table, even though sometimes I want to eat table. So what I do is, I eat at the table, then I'm gonna snack or something, I go wrong.
Right.
But that's what you still see that example.
I was still example that we don't supposed to eat together.
Example.
Even if one person like, I don't know, well, it could be her, me, there. He's in the table right now, eating, right? I don't know, that's their rules, I think it's a good idea too, but if your kid got a certain time they gotta go to bed, and say dinner is like 6 or 7, and if he do eating, okay, I think he should get to go, because while he waiting on us, he would have like this. Take 10 years.
And again,
So I don't waste his TV, look, I don't waste his TV time, because I want to take all day.
But again, that's just a personal family guide.
I know that's all I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Because everybody do it their own way, so we don't want to really put too much into that because we all do a different, have a different mealtime routine. But we just was kind of on a ignoring thing of how, was that appropriate for her to stay at the table?
Can I ask you a question? What if you eat fast and you don't give them time to acclimate the table? And by the time they sit down, you finish.
Well, then, however you do that at your household, because that means we don't have anything to ignore because they're behaving. So if that's the way your family chooses.
Yeah, because if they're gonna act, if you know a child gonna act up, you just go ahead and eat, and then by the time they decide they want to do, when they get home, let them sit at the table and say, oh, Mom, Dad, you didn't say, well, I ate before you come because I know what's going to come.
I just realized what you said.
So I'll be at a table, and I know that you're going to spoil my food.
Okay. Again, that don't become
No, it's
That's what I do.
Because the kid might come in, well, the child, he ate already. I gotta eat by myself. That's what they want to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pair you guys up into twos. Combine the partner. And we're gonna make a list.
She said I'm her partner.
Okay, that's fine. fine. We're gonna make a list of 2 or 3 child behaviors that you will ignore. So each group will come up with 2 or 3 child behaviors that you're gonna ignore. And at the same time, identify positive opposite behavior that you will praise. So if you're not gonna praise running in the house, but you're gonna praise walking in the house. You're not gonna praise whining, but you're gonna praise talking appropriately. So we're just gonna do 2 or 3 per group. And we can get the same group.
Yeah,
You said you from which meeting?
So if you 2 get together, or however you 2, just get together. Tracy and Sherry?
Yeah, they, Tracy and Sherry.
Yeah, Tracy.
I listen, y'all don't want to. We already done Tracy, you guys.
Right here.
Okay, oh, we doing it right. Tracy, you doing it right.
She ain't go right.
They're gonna do right.
Who got somebody?
Kevin can come on with us. 3 on 3, 'cause we
Okay,
need
that
to
works.
Two go and then.
So you know what we gonna work.
Come over there.
Right. So now what we gonna do?
We already scripted. This group is already content. They got their 3 people. So let's.
Oh, they got 3 people. We gonna praise.
If you go right down the behavior you want to ignore.
Behavior. We gonna talk.
See, we channel my inner Aaliyah and my mother.
Let me do the Mariana. Oh, about school day, remember?
Praise.
You know what? I got
Miss Carol, you over there helping? You helping out with y'all?
So we're gonna say,
We gonna come up with a behavior that we go ignore. And then we gonna come up with an opposite behavior that we go practice.
She gonna do the talk. I'm gonna do it.
what is she doing? Is she gonna get another sheet of
She
paper?
gonna put the title on first.
Oh, he didn't ignore it.
Okay, let's think first.
Right.
Okay, let's take one. And when we take the one, we don't want to do wine, so we don't do wine.
Right.
Oh, we gonna do both of them, ignore and praise. Yeah, we both like to do. I'll say ignore and praise.
Now, we got to praise right here. Is we on camera?
Ignore.
Yeah, we are taping, you guys. Don't worry about the camera. The camera ain't worried about us.
Sleeping.
And, we, the 3 things that we gonna praise for, right, girl?
Okay.
Yeah. And then they got to be able to praise.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, doing your homework.
I understand. Stay over there, no, no, on my couch. I was gonna put Lord sleeping on my couch, so it's where everything going up there.
Some kids don't obey law.
Oh, yes. So when you do.
He just not doing it. Oh,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, do this.
In his own bed.
Look at it.
It's just our job.
Yeah, you should put praise on my bed. I like this one too. Just put praise and watch the eat.
It'll show us something to that. It's just this one day.
So we already know the rules. You know, people, you already know. But you need praise and music.
Ignore. Will.
Right now. We'll give you a couple more minutes.
Okay.
I mean, stop.
This is her. What is her behavior? She's asking, you gotta say.
So what's the-
You can't say she was quiet. Quiet. She was talking and you also had a. Everybody getting along.
Everybody communicating. Yeah, everybody communicating. What if God
I like to clean it up. I like to clean it up.
Okay, you guys, couple more seconds and then we'll come back to the table.
Down. Alright, hands down. Pencils down. Pencils down. Pencils down. Hands up. See, they keep going this night.
Okay, you guys, let's talk. I see this group over here was rolling them off him really quick. Okay, Commissioner Trinity, that's okay if you didn't get a lot of them down because we're going to discuss them as a group, so we can discuss the ones this group wrote, because I know they got theirs. Okay, y'all, we good.
Okay, let's bring it back in, everyone. There's no instructor, the facilitator.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear.
I think we all just got
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get those done, but that's fine. We're back on our group. So let's talk about the ones on this group. What do you guys want to put through our week? That may be easy. We got ignoring talk. These are behaviors that we're going to ignore. We're going to ignore talking back. We're going to ignore crying. And we're going to ignore tantrums. These are some of the praises that we can give. We're going to praise them for doing homework on time, praise them for good listening, praise for the attitude, praise for being happy and smiling, praise for coming home on time, and praise for communication. So if we were to match these up, we're not talking bad, I guess, having a good attitude and things like that. So that's good. So those are some great things you can praise for. And some of these are so simple. You know, I've heard parents say, I don't have nothing to praise my kid about. You know, we've heard parents really struggle with that because the kid has so many misbehaviors. Well, this group came up with some things, good listening, a good attitude, just doing your homework. So those are some great things to praise your child about. Do we have a couple over here too?
And then sometimes we be praising our kids and don't even know it. When we say good job, and even though, but it don't really dawn, because it really didn't dawn on me, and I had 10.
So I was saying, that's what I'm gonna say, so you wasn't really praising them, you just told me.
But I didn't have bad kids until they got older.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
You know what, I'm bad, you know what, I'm bad.
Okay, now we have
that over again.
Chris.
You contradict yourself.
Okay, now we have after bedtime show, temper tantrums, stomping.
That's the behavior they have when
What?
they wanna watch the bedtime.
Oh, okay, so this is how they did it. They want to watch the bedtime movie an hour after bedtime. So they have a temper tantrums, they're angry, they're stomping, they're whining. And what we could do is praise them when they start understanding. So once the child stops throwing that temper tantrum thing, we can redirect them and let them understand it is bedtime, you know, and we're going to be going to bed. The behaviors on this list that we're going to ignore when they ask to go to sleep on the couch, and we're going to ignore rude behavior.
I'm gonna explain it to number 2 right there. The cash being good, it requires that over there. Talking bad, just ignore everything and just watch them being good. They ain't gotta say, am I being good? Just watch. And when you watch, you like, he gonna ticket or he gonna die. They be like, what's this for? Because I caught you being good.
Yeah. That's a very good one, Trina. I like how you said that. Yeah. So you just sit back and you observing the whole picture and you ignore behaviors that need to be ignored. We can praise when he gets in bed on time. We can praise just when we catch you being good. And I know that we even do that at work, you know, got caught being good, or at schools. Praise for cleaning up. And that's another one. And that's a common one that a lot of people say, well, they should be cleaning anyways. They should be making their bed anyway. There's nothing wrong with saying, thank you for making your bed. Good job making your bed this morning. There's definitely nothing wrong with us doing that. And then our kids appreciate that so that they're respected also.
Can you say, you can give them praise for not cleaning up? Praise you for leaving your clothes on the floor.
Well, that's not a praise.
That's not a praise.
Remember, keep sarcasm. You always keep sarcasm out there. Hey. Okay. We're gonna like to move again.
What are you doing, lady?
Watch how the next mother avoids this trap.
Sophie, you're not supposed to be playing on the computer right now. You need to stop right now. Well, but I can't shut off the program, but you can get up and leave the computer. Well, but the program is still running though.
That was my son.
Not judging, Mom.
Follow through with commands is something.
Give them slack.
You think it was appropriate for the mother to walk away?
No.
Was it helpful?
No. I don't think so. Because if she keep walking away from the situation, the kid is producing out sugar, it's not gonna be solved because he figured, I'm gonna do this, and he's gonna really do something serious, and then that mother's gonna be really upset because she walked away when she should just say, son, we need to take time out, we need to know what is really going on today.
True.
I think it was good. The reason why I say that is because she told that little girl to get on the computer one time. I tell my son, I only gotta tell you one time. If I gotta tell you twice, I'm walking away. If I walk away, you already know I'm upset, leave me alone, let me calm down.
Right.
That's why I said it was good for her to walk away because she told that little girl one time to get off that computer.
And if you can keep them like that, keep them like that. Because when they get a certain age,
No, you're not supposed to.
No, wait a minute. Once you plant that in them with your rules, you're doing a good job. Once you plant that in them, and when they get a little older, like 16, I don't think you ever have a problem. If you continue
I
doing,
understand, yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
she was
continue.
doing all that,
That's a good job.
and explaining but nothing. I said, get on.
Commissioner.
And another thing, too, it's kind of complicated because my nephew played this game, and then he's like, I gotta get to a save point. So one time, what I did was, I walked away. I said, go and get to the save point, right? It was like a while after that. He was like, I ain't got to the save point yet. I said, you know what? So twice, I said, first time, second time, I said, cut the game off. The third time, I said right there and wait till he saved. Cause I don't wanna be like depending on certain situations, I can relate to kids. Cause I ain't gonna lie, if I'm sitting up on my phone when I'm looking at my Facebook and somebody can come for a minute, I gotta go down, I gotta log off. It do take time to log off certain stuff. So I will either tell me get on or sit there and wait until.
And we can also utilize what we learned, was it last week or the week before, about giving them the 4 warnings. You got 5 minutes and you need to go. We can utilize that at this point.
I think that's good too.
Yep, so that way it's not just a big surprise when you go say turn it off. You know?
You might man do in the middle of the game and somebody say cut it off and you gotta start all back over again. I know even grown-ups agree with that one.
We can definitely do, but as Latrina said, the command was given to get off the computer. There wasn't no reason standing around. We're not gonna argue about it. I said what I need to say and I'm gonna walk away. She's probably gonna come back and make sure it happened. And I do that with my granddaughter in the bathtub. She'll say, Barry, come get me out. And that's my dad, so that's what's up. So I go in to get her out and she'll be hiding the towel or she'll be doing something like that. And instead of going back and forth with her, I say, well, stay in. And I walk away. And she, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? And I come right back and I get her out. But she understands, look, no, I'm not going to stay here and play with you. You going to get out and you going to stay in. Those are your options.
You right to I was gonna say, Dave, you in the grocery store, your kid walking in front of you behind you, and then like, no, I'm gonna stay here. You must don't know me, I will leave your kid. I will leave you.
You normally it don't take us to
walk there, run.
Yeah, it don't take us.
Don't leave me.
Yeah, normally it don't take us to leave for them to come along, for them to understand that we mean business, but sometimes that's all it takes.
I'm like, you must don't know
That's all it
me.
Okay. I don't know if we're gonna break into groups again. Okay, we're gonna break into groups. Remember we talked about positive talk a little while ago about how we need to, sometimes we have to talk to ourselves to calm ourselves down. And that's not in all, that's not just in parenting, that's in a lot of situations in our life that we self-talk because before we do something that we go pay for it later. So what we want to do is we can do the same rules we had before and just think of a couple, you can say them out loud, a couple things you can talk to yourself about to calm down, self-talk. You know, we talk about stay cool, don't do it, it's gonna be all right, count to 10. It's, you know, we've talked about the self-talk to calm down things. So just think of a couple things that you could do to calm down. Or you can stay in your seat, we'll give you a couple minutes and then we'll just go around the room. Everybody can think of one maybe. And if you can't, we can still discuss the couple that we have, because the book did list a few, and I keep using calm down. Because normally we in a situation
So
where
you
we
want
got
to go by, you want to go by person, or we can't do
we
it?
okay, we can stay in our seat just for the sake of time.
You can go into the room, and then you also can go to sleep, and then you can also go for a walk.
Yeah, now those are techniques that you can use to calm down, walk and go to sleep. But if we go do self-talk, can you think of a self-talk you may say to yourself?
I would say, should I not? Okay, Sherry, we need to come to a decision. Who's gonna be the better person? You got to calm down before this gets too out of control. So what I'm gonna decide and I'm gonna do.
Now, Sherry just had a self-talk conversation, but at the end of the day, it was the same thing. She used it to calm her down. Whether some of us may say, calm down, calm. She gave herself a nice little pep talk to calm herself down.
You have to.
Whatever works for you, that's what we want to do. We gonna do it.
It might not work all the time. Sometimes, you know, it all depends how the situation is. But we gotta, because we the parents, we got to show our children. And we show them how we can be calm, and then they look at, oh, we put her through this situation, and she calm, maybe we better stop taking consideration and seeing that we better change our attitude.
Okay, let's see what Tracy, you got one for us, Tracy?
Count to 10, and that's gonna give me strength.
There you go. And see, that's what we had heard from, but I bet a lot of people say that, Lord, just give me strength.
That's all I say all the time.
He said that too, but
And if it worked for you, then you make sure you got one for us, Kevin.
I actually try to look at something that's a little peaceful.
And
I
see
look
it?
at the trees or just birds. I watch them whenever I can to get my mind off of the anger.
See, and that's it, he's found out what it takes. Take wherever it takes to get you off of that anger, so that's good. Even if it's, yeah. Chris, you got one?
Yeah, you know, well, first of all, I'm a patient person, so it would take, I don't know what it takes to really get me upset. Probably if you're going through something violent, then I'll think of self-defense.
Well, what would you say to yourself to calm yourself down?
Oh, no, I'm not gonna let this happen. That's what I'm gonna say.
That's a good one. That's a good one. What do you think about?
I don't wanna live with no guilt.
You talking about talk.
Mine is they keep bugging me. I look out his face and just block him out. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, she really knowing her. But if she not, Lord, please control my anger, because I know I'm like, holding this girl, better than wrong. Seriously, better than wrong.
And she tell the truth too.
Again, I've noticed most of us are doing a nice little self-pep talk, you know, to keep us moving. And again, whatever works for you, that's what we want to do. Miss Carol?
Now, you know me, I'm just gonna ignore her, I'm gonna go to my room, you go to your room, and I'll just read or get this TV and watch something to get my mind off of whatever was happening, you know, and you go to your room and you do what you need to do, get your mind on what's happening, and then maybe later on we can come back together and talk about this. But right now, we need to separate, you know.
And that's what the book says too. You do something to distract yourself, listen to music, read, whatever to calm yourself down.
Calm down, you know, so. But you gotta get it, away so I can, you know, because you keep looking at you,
I'll say get better.
Right, so you go in your room, I come in mine, don't disturb me, and, you know, if I make that now, you know, hey, it might take that long right now, but hey, it takes now. We'll talk about it, whatever.
And that's
Right
good.
now,
That's that's good, because sometimes, like you said, just being in your presence still
Right.
keeps my blood
Right.
boiling, so it's good for us to celebrate. Okay, Ms. Kamisha?
Three simple things. One, I was probably gonna say this. You can read it like this is out, Musa.
My grandson too.
Yeah, it's like, you know, reading it, exactly, you know, this.
So I'm gonna tell my daughter, move.
No, you do it to yourself, you do it to
It
yourself.
helps calm down.
She give me, I say she give me, I'm like,
I don't know, bro.
this Musa. That's one.
Oh, so you ain't doing it to somebody else, you doing it.
Two, look at my old shit, I'm like, Lord Jesus help me. Woo, that's what I say. And then three, I go outside like he said, just go outside.
Oh, so you don't agree with my statement, but we can't say, why would we say, Lord help ourselves when we had these kids?
No, that's
He's
you.
helping us.
No, that's what
That ain't the point, we trying to figure out what works for us to calm ourselves down.
Yeah.
Whether we had kids
Go outside,
or
go
our
in the
kids,
room.
whatever, but we wanna do what's gonna calm us down, because that's what we trying to get at. We don't wanna react. Yeah, we don't wanna react.
Musa, Lord Jesus help me. And sit on my front porch, I love my
Just
front porch.
remove yourself.
Yeah, say the 23rd Psalm.
You got one right.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's two
I
words.
have last word and I don't like arguing either.
Oh, you like the last word?
And there's so many of us that's like that. You know, we just have to have the last word, because we know we're right. I mean, so I have to get the last word. Well, so that's good, you just remove yourself.
Well, if you pay for the last word, you can have the last word.
Okay, Tamara, we ain't even gonna entertain Sherry. It's Tamara.
I
You should just have my daughter on.
to calm myself down, I either clean up or I make something.
And I can say something right too. That clean up, let me say something real quick, but my kids probably used to get into it on town wedding, and he'll leave. He come back, the whole house cleaned up. He said, you bad, huh? No, I ain't mad. I ain't mad. So if anybody wanna know that I'm mad, and the house mess, he'll come back and clean up, or won't. She right through this.
And I know something else somebody can calm down, you can crack a pencil. Some people hit the door and hit the wall, calm down.
No, then you
No.
don't want to display
No,
that you lost self-control on that.
But sometimes
You can work out, you can exercise.
Yeah,
I got a fun.
get a punching bag, kick your leg.
Yeah.
Okay, we gonna replay this video. It's right before this. We gonna replay this video, and I want you to pay attention. We gonna just play it and then we'll talk about it, where the daughter's answering on the computer.
Sometimes difficult, but important to help children understand they cannot argue a parent out of a rule. Follow through with commands is sometimes difficult, but important. In the next vignette, watch how the parents ignore their daughter's behavior.
No, she still was on there first.
Engaging in arguments with children reinforces the argument. Watch how the next mother avoids this trap.
Sophie, you're not supposed to be playing on the computer right now. You need to stop right now.
Well, but I can't shut off the program.
Well, you can get up and leave the computer.
Oh, but the program is still running though.
What did she got?
The mother walked away.
I would just turn it off.
Okay, we just wanted to play that again, because we're gonna do a role play, and we'll do just maybe one or two of them. But we're gonna have someone be the mother, daughter, and we're gonna do some self-positive talk.
She could be the daughter, she could be the mom. No, she could be the daughter, she could be the mom.
Okay,
the
so soon as this, who gonna be the kid? Somebody?
Sherry be the mom.
Okay,
She
so
gonna
you
be
gonna
the
be on
mom.
the computer, you on the computer, you the kid.
Be the mom.
Okay, and
Now,
somebody, well, this is what we're gonna do, and this is something that most of you had an issue with it during the course of the day, we talked about it. She's gonna be on the computer, and mom is gonna come tell her exactly that, okay, it's time to get on the computer.
I'll be the
Yeah,
one.
you
I
could
sure
see
will,
my face.
y'all.
Okay.
I get off, I cut it off.
Okay, so,
I'm gonna
she's
show you
gonna,
how it is. I'm gonna feel like she our body and I'm myself.
okay, but this is the thing now, she's gonna comply. First, she's not gonna comply, but then as soon as she complies, you're gonna, redirect redirect her. You remember we talked about you're gonna reward, not to per se reward, but you're gonna redirect her because you understand. She's doing what you asked her to do. Okay. All
All
right.
right, y'all go up there.
I gotta go up there?
Yeah.
You can go right here.
Well, we don't care.
Well, you sure? She can turn the camera.
Oh, that's on me
No,
now.
I'm saying, oh, she got
How we gonna role play y'all that far back? Come on back here with
That's what I said. Be to the front.
the camera right here. We can still go. Okay, we will be okay.
Oh, well, I
Close ups.
Okay.
don't know the
Yeah.
name.
Takika. Takika. And what's your name?
Takika, where's you going?
We gotta do this right.
Go over there? Okay.
She on the computer, I'm finna walk
Okay,
in.
okay. So what's your name?
I told you, my bad.
Since I am at home, you on, she on mine. Okay, it's getting that time for you to get off this computer.
Okay, just give me a second.
You already had a second, it's time to get off.
All right, I'll be.
Come on, let's go make some dinner.
That was good. How she did the dinner thing. I was a positive talk in your ear, just trying to, you know, because we wanted to make sure. I know. I seen it coming. That's why, again, that's self-talk.
It wasn't you.
You made the right face too.
It wasn't you, it was just that you remind me of my son. And I was like, ooh, that ain't my son, that is not my son.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
They both
We got new crew coming in today. Okay. And would you get that? My granddaughter hooks up the Xbox. I don't know how. I sit up and
Follow through with commands is sometimes difficult, but important to help children.
Come on, Beard. And she unhooked the Xbox for me.
How do they do?
No, pass is right.
You know what? I'm not trying to be funny, but y'all sure need a video that y'all will get some views.
In the next scene, think about what you would do differently.
Stacy got right. Stacy said, Vera, something wrong with Stacy.
In the next scene, think about what you would do differently.
Take care of this while I see it come out.
In the next scene, think about what you would do differently. Sometimes an argument occurs not because children are...
Okay, we're gonna do it for any argument.
to a limit being set, but simply because they want to be acknowledged as being right about something. Think about this father's response and how you would respond.
We're gonna make thick pasta or thin pasta? Make the cheese.
Let's see. Yeah, we can make that. Yeah, make spaghetti and wheat.
Spaghetti and linguine are the same thing though.
That's not true.
It is. Spaghetti and linguine are the same thing.
Try to flip it over. Do you want to use one of these ones?
Sure.
And I'll roll this one.
In the next scene, think about what you would do differently.
So what was a good idea for the father to practice ignoring those way arguments?
So we become a big argument, so it wouldn't become one.
So it wouldn't become an argument?
A big one.
A big one? Yeah.
Everybody put their shop in. Nobody say nothing to you. That's what I do, is escape argument.
Oh, no, we're not on that, we're on the, yeah, that we just want.
I see, okay.
State argument.
I missed the other one, so I was getting something.
Mom, I want a cookie.
You can have what you want for supper.
No, I want a cookie now. Mom, I really want a cookie. Please, Mommy.
My back and draw.
I took my back. Mom, I really want a cookie. Please.
I told you no.
Mom.
Sometimes parents are worn down by their children.
Why is the boy so persistent on whining?
You can't do this, really bad, the mother's gonna change her mind.
Okay, so who we just got through talking about?
The boy whining about the cookie.
So what do you think about that?
I think, my son do that to me too. And the first time I'm gonna tell him, you know, you can't have it. Then, something brought him fruits, I'm gonna tell him why he can't get it. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Right. So in the process, you're teaching your son not to whine.
Yep.
And you're teaching him how to express himself verbally without whining.
Yeah, and if I tell you no, that means no. And I'm gonna tell you why. I don't want you to think because somebody might come in and say, what's wrong with you? I can't get a cookie because I kicked somebody last week. No, you can't get a cookie because it's this and this and that.
It's a right now, so you're using the right now moments instead of something he did. You don't punish him for something he did a while ago.
Because if he might think that he did something a while ago, like one time he was doing something, and they said, why you get in trouble? Oh, he made a whole different story. Look, boy, why you couldn't get that?
Yes, they're gonna fabricate and elaborate, especially if they're not sure the reason why they're being punished.
That's the reason
So it's
why.
good to explain to them why.
Pleading and arguing. They become weary of it all and just give in. This may stop the unpleasant behavior for the moment, but over the long run, it will produce more pleading, screaming, and arguing behavior. When using ignoring as a strategy for discouraging misbehavior, you must be absolutely determined to ignore until the misbehavior is over. The temptation to give in is great, especially when you first use the ignore technique, because the misbehavior will usually get worse before it gets better.
I have a question.
What other strategies could the mom have used to counteract his whining? Is there any other strategies, like you said, you explained to him why he's unable to have the cookie? Is there any other strategies anybody can think of or would like to share?
I think she did good. She kept quiet, didn't she?
They ignore.
Some people do the countdown too.
Well, my baby, she's 17 months, and so we was in the store yesterday, and she likes Cheetos, and so she said, Cheetos, and I said, well, I have to pay for them first, but the day before that, she whined and got to doing that pulling stuff, so I opened them up and gave them to her. Wednesday. Thursday was a different story. I said, I have to pay for them first. I said, do you want to give the man the money and get our change back? I said, because I have to pay for these. I can't open them up and give them to you. Then, she did her little whining, but she sat back once she seen I wasn't gonna do it. Now, other times it's different. Like, I can have
a transfer in my hand. She wants the transfer, but I can't give her the transfer because she'll ball it up and I won't be able to use it. And so, yesterday she cried. I mean, you know, like real tears, and I picked her up. I said, Mama, understand. I said, but I can't give you this. I said, I'll give it to you after I use it. I said, but not right now, okay? She said, okay.
But you notice how you said your baby 17 months, your baby, at 17 months, she realized that when she whined the first time you opened it, she told her for at the store and gave her one. So she was going to do it again today, and in her mind, she said she was going to get those Cheetos right then because she knew it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So you broke that cycle really quick, because if not, every time we went in that store, it was going to be the same thing that she was going to whine for a second, because she knew she was going to get her Cheetos all into the
And I'm older now, you know, I'm 35, and she's so stinking cute, and it's so tempting to do, you know. You know, your attitude changes, your mindset changes, you know, what's supposed to as you get older. You know, when I was like 18, I didn't care. There was no, I don't, you know.
Right.
But now it's different. Something happened, you know.
And I think depending on who the person is too, this is so funny. She relate to this one. I could be downstairs with my sons. My two could be upstairs. Pastor said, 1, 2. He like, okay.
That calm
She
down.
went upstairs. What you doing? I'm in front of you. She could be in the house. No, we could be in the house. She could be outside.
She hear that one. 1, 2. Okay.
Okay.
It's good. That'll work for a while. I did that. Or what Amari and I thought, Amari, Wednesday, get back here now. She'll run, you know, try to get away from me and go somewhere she doesn't have any business going. And I'll say, Amari and Wednesday, get back here. She goes, okay. She's so cute.
No, my eyes do the eyes and the lip, look at her.
They gonna play on them first. I'll tell about when you count me on for the kids. It's the same thing when you be in the house and the kids down the street somewhere.
When they be outside, and I tell them, okay, y'all got 5 minutes to go outside and play. 5 minutes to go, I'll be 1, 2. When I get to that 2, they in the house.
When I say one,
She ain't gotta say no name.
Kevin, you got a comment?
Yes, I do agree with her approach, ignoring. But I've also found that ignoring isn't always best. With my kids, it's real simple. I always have to use a different strategy.
Okay. You want to elaborate?
What's that?
You want to explain the strategies that you use?
Well, I can ignore them. But what happens when they start ignoring me? Because I did it to them.
Yeah.
I get upset, I go outside, I calm down. I got to revert myself into something totally different. I don't want them to sit there and follow by example.
Yeah.
But the kids, as they get older, they do that. You ignore them, then they'll ignore you.
Yeah, that's why I said I agree, but only to a
Right.
point.
See, they follow what you did, you know, that's what they'll do as they get older.
But my kids, they grown. They ain't gonna keep saying that. They gonna continue to ignore me, and they grown.
Also, you have to think, when they're older, they're getting older, so they're finding their strengths and their abilities too. And maybe they're still angry, they can't calm down as fast as we can at that point. Because there's something that they're still upset about and they need to voice that. But in order for the sake of faith and to say, they'll ignore you because I will get your attention. And when you do when I do decide to talk to you, then you'll be ready to hear me out and really hear me. So that's another mechanism.
I'm gonna put that down over here, Kevin, because what we're gonna do now is brainstorm some advantages and disadvantages of ignoring, and you're saying one of the disadvantages may be that your child's gonna literally start ignoring you back.
Yes.
They do ignore you back, because I got one. That's it. What they know. But I'm not trying to be a good parent, but they do ignore.
No, what we're gonna learn is a talking stick to this class. You can't talk till you get the stick.
Right.
Can we think of any other reasons, advantages or disadvantages to ignoring our child? Or their behaviors? I'm sorry, we're ignoring their behaviors, not the child.
there won't be any, you won't say something that you'll regret.
Everything I say to man, I mean, in good positive ways. I said good positive ways. If I say something, that's it.
But that's, I mean, seriously, that, sometimes ignoring do prevent you from saying something that you'll regret later. Because when you're upset, a lot of times things come out that you really don't want to come out, or you don't want it to come out the way it comes out.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think that's a good idea. In the book, I noticed that, one thing it prevents is arguing. You know, we talk about how the one mother walked away because she didn't want to go into that argument with her child, especially when your child is a little older.
But what if your child, if you ignore them and they try to grab you, and you try to get away? So what you supposed to say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or
You not take it to a different situation.
I'm talking about ignoring. Oh.
But see, cause he ignore me, and I tell him, okay, you wanna ignore me, I'm gonna ignore you back. So it's like an ongoing thing. He ignore me, I ignore him. He ignore me, I ignore him. It's like I'm playing it. He playing it to my wall, I'm playing it his wall. But I need to
Remember we just
draw that line.
Yeah, and that's what we just talked about. As a parent, sometimes you gotta be the one to break that standoff. You definitely gotta be the one. And sometimes our pride won't let us, because we be like, you the kid, you the young one, you need to be the one to give in and apologize, whatever. But as an adult, we have to be the bigger person in that situation.
Right.
Look at you, look at you. Self-talk, somebody go whisper in her ear, it's gonna be all right.
And I have to think about, when you do that, you're teaching them at the same time, and you teaching yourself too. What's my limit? My boundaries.
Yep.
And if you think they're ignoring you, it's gonna give you a headache, just take an aspirin and chill.
Another thing too, it depends on what it is, because if they know you like me, ignore, they not gonna do it. Because my little kids know I can't, don't ignore me.
Teach and learn.
Yes, they know. Did you say something? Would you ignore me? No, I'm gonna ignore you. Hey, bro, I'm here. Let's say something.
But you know what, when they ignore you and you keep talking to them and they don't wanna hear, just let them open up their room, and when they start speaking directly, looking eye to eye contact, act like you hear a word they say. And they'll say, Mama, did you hear what I said? Oh, what you say? Oh, I can't hear you.
But remember, we gonna be the bigger person, we gonna take the bigger person, we gonna get rid of the sarcasm, and we go.
Right, it all depends on what day of the week.
Okay, let's watch the next video. Just remember what I said, y'all. I said to you a million times, and you gonna remember by the end of this course.
Yes, I'm gonna get it.
The children are testing to see whether if they push long and hard enough, they can get you to give in. Watch what happens next and think about what this boy has learned.
Let's really want a cookie. Mom.
Oh, all right.
Remember, most school-aged children will argue and protest in anger when they are prevented from doing something they want to do. This is a natural part of their drive for independence. It is important not to take this personally. Let's watch this happening and think about how you would respond to this girl's protests.
Mom, I want to go. Why would you let me?
I know you'd like to go, but you can't.
I hate you. You never let me do anything. Dad would let me go. I know he would.
Watch next how the mother effectively ignores her daughter's angry outburst.
Okay, you guys gonna say it again?
Oh yeah, I hate you, Mom.
Let's watch the lady's face though too. Let's watch her face.
Yeah, you should see my face.
Let's watch her face.
And at the same time, follows through with the limit she set. Remember, the idea behind selective ignoring is to ignore the misbehavior while giving attention to the part. Remember, most school-aged children will argue this happening and think about how you would respond to this girl's protests.
Mom, I want to go. Why would you
I know you'd like to go, but you can't.
I hate you. You never let me do anything. Dad would let me go. I know he would.
Watch next
She's crazy.
how the mother
She's fine.
actively ignores her daughter's angry
Lord
photos
Jesus.
and at the same time follows through with the limits she set.
I know you're angry, but it is a school night, and I don't think it's a good idea.
The idea behind selective ignoring is to ignore.
Okay.
That's the point.
I read the day man.
Yeah. I really wanted to slap her.
I know, I was thinking it too. You see the picture, you see?
She
You
did.
see?
She did.
But you notice as the bigger person, as the parent,
Right.
she
She
was
doesn't
fighting
go.
and again, even with those housewords, I hate you and all this and that. A lot of people will respond to that because, you know, my child shouldn't be saying it, but she ignored it, and the look on her face, you know, her daughter, she couldn't do nothing but walk away at the end, because she just gave that same, now should I look like me? I'm sorry you're upset, no. You know, and she acknowledged that she was upset, she's sorry that you're upset, and she's sorry what you're feeling, but I'm not gonna change my answer. You know, and, I thought that was really good, because that was really,
She did good, I'm proud.
Also, if mom had gave in, and it was a rebuttal and they started to argue, daughter would have had, she would have felt right about maybe walking out and leaving, going to do whatever it was that she wanted to do, because now mom has offended me.
But that's the kids. That's the only.
Still, kids still have a right to be respected.
Yeah, they got a right to be, they got a right to be respected, but, not when you on that age and you hate somebody, I would say, spell it. She should have just called up and said, what made you, why did you feel that way? What made you think that because I told you you couldn't go nowhere? It's got to be something else when she said, I hate you.
So you gotta let
That's
her,
a harsh word.
yeah, so you gotta let her calm down.
I ain't gonna let her come down. She 8 years old, she 7 years old. They don't need to come down. They need to know how to use their vocabulary, words when they talk to adults. Some
They know like
adults-
2 and 3.
Some adults might not can't take it. I mean, I'm just going back to her. Some kids just can't take it, and I'm the type of one I can't take it.
And that's your limit, that's what the limit
I'm
is.
not
You
gonna
say for
do it.
yourself, you calm down.
But I just gonna say, why you say it?
But for the sake of not arguing, you should let things calm down before you ask her.
and that's it right there, because,
Sherry, did you hear me?
Yeah.
Sherry.
She was talking to the,
Sherry, I asked you, did you hear me?
I heard
For
you
the
saying.
sake of
Myself.
de-escalating the argument, walk away, let things calm down, then you go back and ask her.
and that's the thing right there,
Like, that's what the parent
walk
did.
away for
Right.
it. Calm
She
yourself
said,
down.
do like this. Do
Yeah, whatever it takes.
She said that.
No. I do it to myself. I don't know kids.
Okay, that's what we do it to the kids.
I find myself arguing with my kids and then I with my mother. I do that, I go back to the steps up and like, why am I arguing with a child?
And it should never get to that point where you are arguing with the child. You set the limits and that's it, you know. So again, we have to pay attention to those type of things, because before you know it, you have got wrapped up in it and your emotions and your feelings have got up and you actually literally argue with your 6-year-old.
And you can get enraged, and before you know it, you hit out of anger, and you don't ever want it to get to that point at all, ever.
So that's good you pay it, you know that though, because you catch yourself, so that's a good thing. Okay, we have another role play.
Hey, I'm gonna sit this one out.
We have, even though this is probably something you could definitely star in, we're gonna have a 10-year-old daughter with an attitude.
Okay.
All right, we got a 10-year-old with an attitude.
How would you like to be, to the 10-year-old daughter?
I'll be a 10-year-old. I volunteer.
I'm gonna leave.
I think that'd be good.
Can you be mom?
She said she wants to be that too, Mom.
So okay, so who's ever gonna be the 10-year-old, mom is gonna ask you to take the trash out. You're gonna have an attitude, you're gonna do the typical things.
Okay, I'm gonna have an attitude.
The 10-year-old is
Okay,
gonna
go ahead.
so you're gonna take the trash out, but you're gonna do it with an attitude. So that come with everything that come, rolling eyes, stuff in the feet.
Okay, her.
The 10-year-old, yeah. Okay.
Chase, sweetie, I need you to take the trash out.
Why you asking me for it?
Because it's your turn.
But I figured out last night it was your turn.
I'm not gonna argue about it.
You are arguing with me right now, you are. Mom, you need to take that trash out.
Can you just do what I asked you to do?
I'm not about to take it out.
No.
No.
Okay, so what I think what needs to happen right now is I'm gonna go and give myself some time to think.
No, but you need to take that trash out because a lot of things in that trash. It smells.
God. Don't hurt yourself. This is what I'm gonna do. I need you to write to me and explain to me
I can't write right now.
what it is
I'm sorry,
that you're
Mom.
doing